Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlater George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Red Country, Joe's third standalone and the next First Law entry, and we cover New Lives and the Rugged Outdoorsman. So let's get started. As usual, folks, you know the drill by now. Goddammit. We will thank you for your continued support. All right. As of this moment, I think I might have talked about this, but all of our episodes have been uploaded to YouTube and they're just automatically uploaded. So me and George don't have to stress about it. We took the easy way after about a year of me refusing to listen and follow the easy way.
You done the right thing here.
We got into like a sunk cost thing, didn't we? Where we'd uploaded 50 episodes. We're like, well, we've done so much so far. We should just stick at it. And we never did. The last time we actually uploaded an episode was about a year ago. So definitely not.
I think it was December was the last time we uploaded.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, it was like, oh, God. And now it does it for us. So, yeah. And me and the boys, we're spitballing some ideas of maybe some additional stuff and content, a little, content is the key word here, right? So that might be in the works, but we shall see. Boys, do you want to express any, fucking statements of gratitude to the fans, to the people, to our fans?
No, I think they know. If they don't know, then they're fools.
Yeah. You know by now.
That's right. So, just remember to follow us on our social media platforms. All right, follow our YouTube page if you don't already. Hit subscribe. All right, just subscribe and give us those like 5-star ratings apparently on like the reviews for your podcast as well. That'd be nice because apparently that it really helps. And you could curse us out and say we're AI drivel if you like in the comments, but just give us that 5-star. Just hit us with that 5-star. And that'll be, we'll I'll have George give you guys a blowjob or something. So we'll move on.
What the fuck? You promised me that I would be the only one receiving those. What the hell,
bro? Fuck's sake.
Sorry.
We've already derailed.
Yeah, I know. But we'll move on to our first segment, which is our community interaction segment. As you know by now, memeing every chapter for Red Country is up and running on the House of the Meme Maker subreddit. Our boy, Sir Spaceman, has it going, and it's back to the original methodology, right? Where it's you have to sign up for chapters.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And once you sign up, you are legally bound. Or
if
else,
not, Will come to your house and murder you.
Well, I was going to say Will was going to give them a blowjob against their will, but I mean, yeah, okay, that works. That works.
Whoa, that's way worse, Jeffrey. What the fuck?
He won't break eye contact.
What the fuck? Jeffrey, I think you need to get laid.
I do. I'm kidding.
But yeah, no. I'm looking at the list now, and there aren't enough in there. I've picked out 4 who I'm going to send to an anonymous person to upload.
Yes.
Anonymous.
But right at the beginning, there, I mean, obviously, it's going to be like 4 or 5 in by the time this episode comes out. But you need to start get on there and pick some. Come on, guys.
Yep. Hurry up, folks. By the way, has our 100 days passed? I think by now. No? Goddamn.
Right. I made a mistake.
What'd you do?
I accidentally forgot to delete one of the accounts that I had, and I went on it the other day. And
how many accounts did you have, George?
4.
Did you? All right. Are they all done? Are they all gone?
They're all deleted now. So 100 days.
Okay, but when was that?
Like 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry.
2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
God damn it, man. All right. So, shit. All right. Whatever. We'll count those later. All right. So, yes. Don't forget to join the Meming Every Chapter event. It is a calendar event. It is a milestone, and you need to take part part of it, and have fun.
Get some meme glory.
Yeah, that's right. Bask in your excellence, and then we might shout you out. And I know that's what you live for.
Everyone's dream.
It is everyone's dream. Forget, earning, having a great job and earning enough money to provide for your family and just hitting all your career goals. Nah.
Yay!
The highlight of your life is going to be shouted out by us for best meme of the week. God damn it. So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our first chapter read through. Folks, this is New Lives. And New Lives, oh man, another Western mainstay, right? In terms of
yeah, it's cool because we get introduced to the Fellowship. The Fellowship is they're just fucking pioneers going across this vast and open country. I can't imagine what Joe was inspired by for this one. And,
especially using that name, Fellowship.
Yeah, they come up on the crest of this hill, and the wind's blowing, and he's like, Dab Sweet's like, there they are, there's the Fellowship, and the music soars, and as you see all of these wagons, dozens of them, in a big old long trail stretching out for a mile long.
Love
it. It's almost beautiful, and the closer they get, the more they realize, it's just like everything else. It doesn't really. It's kind of dog shit like everything else is, but
yeah. But from a distance, it's it's pretty impressive. It's an impressive sight from a distance, especially. Even to the point where when they crest the hill, like you said, and they look down, Leaf is like, "Will you look at that?" Right, and he's smiling so much that to Shy, she said she hadn't seen him smile yet. Made him look more like a boy than ever, and it made her smile herself. Like this is a nice, it's a nice setting right now.
A soaring moment. That's why the music, you got the soaring music flies over.
And I like how Dab Sweet is like, yep, it's a cross section through society. Some people are honest, some sharp, some rich, some poor, some clever, some not so much, and lots of prospectors, merchants, all set on a new life out there. And he goes, and we even got the first of the Magi down there. And Lamb turns his head around real quick. He's like, what? And then Dab Sweet is like, yeah, famous actor, E.L. Civ Lestek. Apparently, 100 bloody years ago, he, his Baez memorized the crowds in Adjua. And we are like, we know what that was. That was when, in the famous YouTube video that we have out now on the audience chamber, where Harrison and George reenacted the moment between the actual Baez and the Archlector, all pissy about the play that they did.
That was a good one. You need to go and look at that if you haven't already. It doesn't have nearly enough views on YouTube though.
Oh well, thank you, George. You don't need to shout that up. I appreciate that. But yeah,
I like the fact that Josef Lestek, they put on that play just to flex on Baez, and then apparently it had a very good run anyway.
Yeah, he probably did it at several different places. It's probably more known history now. Is that thing. If you think about it, Glockta, it sounded so tragic when he took that scroll away from the Adeptus Historical, but really he revitalized the historical record. More people probably had an interest in it. He did the right thing.
He did. And
the right thing, stealing from that old man.
I like how, and Dab's like, if you ask me though, his acting powers are, downhill. And I like how Shy goes, oh, his Baez doesn't convince that much anymore. And I like how Dab's like, he barely convinces me as Lestek. So,
I like that Shy and Dab Sweet are having this little they've clearly been on the road for at least a couple of days, so they're actually getting along really well, which is nice. They're all having a jab at each other and all having a laugh. It's I don't see that a lot in the first law.
Right.
Yeah, Shy gets along with basically everybody. She's very charismatic, Shy is.
Yeah, she is. And to your point, I believe, Harrison, when they get closer, it's like, okay, it's not so romantic now. It's not, it's there's
the wonders of humanity. That's just disgusting.
Yeah, they have a lot of oxen and what else? Did they have some cows, I guess, or some horse? They have some dogs and flies and lice, apparently. And so they get to the fellowship, and they get introduced to a tall Kantic man by the name of Abram Mahood. And he's the guy,
Abram Mahood.
I guess, that is running this, right? And
Whoa. They live in a democratic society.
well, but this is a fellowship, and I guess they had to like pay their way, right? Remember? And so he goes, "Oh, you got 3. Interesting." And he, Dab introduces him as Lamb and his daughter Shy. She doesn't, correct him. And he goes, "This kid, I forget his name. Fuck." And he goes, "Leaf. That's it. That's right." And then I like how Dab goes, "This here is my employer." He puts a little bit of a,
he doesn't like a bit in the fact that he has an employer.
Yeah, he has some spite.
Yeah, he calls him an unrepentant criminal. So, anyway, so he goes, he goes, "I've been repenting this fellowship ever since I formed it back with my partner Kernsbick in Keln. He's a hard man, but a clever one." And apparently, so Mahood is taking the portable forge that Kernsbick developed over to Kreese, which is obviously exactly where, they got to go.
We're getting a little bit more of the technological development as well. People are inventing things and that are going to improve the world, and nothing bad will ever happen from that.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're going to also stake some mining claims. And Shy's like, "Oh, gold," and he goes, "No, iron and copper," because he goes, there's only fools think that there's gold in gold, which I thought was pretty like a funny, interesting line.
That's good because it's not like you just find gold and suddenly you're rich. Like you got to like convert that to currency in some form or another.
And you're probably going to get murdered for it as well. So
yeah, probably get stolen.
And so like, okay, you guys are here to join the fellowship. Great. The rate for buying in, and then Dab, he cuts in and he's like, "Well, Lamb here is a serious fighting man," and I like how Mahood looks at Lamb. He goes, "No offense, but he looks a little old." And
damn,
it's like, "Listen, man, I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter." And he goes, "If you want youth, the lad with him is well supplied." And Mahood looks less impressed.
I love the line as well. He's like, "I seek a happy medium."
And he's like, "Look, we don't got enough fighters. With the ghost fixed on blood, it's no time to be cutting costs." He goes, "Lamb's in or I'm out, and you can scout your way around in circles until your wagons fall apart." And I like how Shy notes that Mahood looks at Lamb and Lamb looks back, still and steady, and she says that it seemed that he left his weak eye back in square deal. And then and Mahood goes, "All right, Master Lamb goes free." And then 2 paid shares comes to, and then Sweet goes, "All right, so listen, I made a deal with Shy that they'd all come free, all 3 of them."
He's like, "What the fuck?"
Mahood is like, "It seems she got the better of that particular negotiation." He goes, "Ah," and Mahood goes, "I have no notion of how I'll explain this to my partner Kernsbick. He is not a man to be trifled with on expenses."
Dun dun dun. The true villain of the story.
So basically, they kind of just get their stuff set up, and so the idea is Shy and Lamb are gonna kind of like go throughout the fellowship and ask around if they heard of any whispers of anything or rumors of like the children or somebody by the name of Gregor Cantless. And so this is where it's kind of like a little montage, I'm cueing some indie folk music in the background, and you just see like.
I actually, anytime there's any kind of Western montage, I always think of the Red Dead building a little house song.
Oh yeah.
Down, 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 down. Gonna build a little house and then. That's always what I think of. And they're just asking people like you can't see what they're saying. They're just like holding up a picture.
Yeah, or they're like, and they're like, I'm miming right now for the folks that can't see, which is everybody.
Yeah, thank God you're doing that. I would have never known what you were doing.
But so they met an ancient Styrian named Gentili. Not much about that.
Disgusting name.
Gentili.
Really?
We
My
meet.
name is Genitalia the First.
We also meet a Lord and Lady Ingolstad. George, correct me.
Yeah, Ingolstadt, yeah.
Oh, Ingolstad. Okay. Have we met them before? Feel like we have.
We
Feel
have
like in
not, but
the
we
original
will
trilogy.
see them. No,
No.
wait, hang on.
Yes, we did.
No,
Come on. I believe in you now. I'm believing
Hang
you.
on.
Is he
Hang
one of the
on.
people that Glockter negotiated with to get his vote on the council or something like that?
Maybe.
No. It is okay. Ingolstadt is one of the people that Baez brought in to get put Giselle on the throne. But there is also an Ingolstadt in the Heroes. It's a colonel or something, and I think he dies with.
Do you want me to do this for you, Harrison? I got
Do it.
He is in the last argument of Kings. He's pressured from all sides to cast his vote. He gets a visit from Glockta.
I was right about that. Yep. No wonder he leaves.
Yeah, Morovia also threatened Ingolstadt, but he's the one that has daughters.
Yes, he is the one that has daughters.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And the kids are here. Yay!
And I've just had a look
They're
as well.
alive.
There's no mention of Ingolstadt in the Heroes, so.
Thank you for checking. But it does interesting though, right? That they pop up. No wonder he leaves, right? It took him some time to gather everything, but he leaves to protect his kids, presumably, and they have no clue.
I mean, I don't think that he left. No, because remember, we're talking. This is like however many years after the last argument of Kings and everything. But apparently, he became broke, and now it's like, well, going out west to start a new life. And I think does he have daughters with him?
Well, they must have married off by now, like.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Probably just him and his wife.
Yeah, it is just him and his wife. You're right. And then they get to the other wagon where big bold letters on the side of it says the famous Iosif Lestek. Is it Iosif? Yosif? Whatever? Yosif Lestek. He goes, and so I was like, all right. So then it's some little boy is like driving the wagon, but the man himself is sitting next to him, swaying, old, gaunt, leashed of all color, swaddled in a threadbare ghost blanket. And he perked up when Shy and Lamb got over there, though. He goes, I am Yosif Lestek. I dare say the name is familiar. And Lamb goes, I'm sorry to say we don't really get to go to the theater often out here. And I like how he tells him the reason that he's here is that he was forced to abandon a role at Adjua's House of Drama due to illness. The ensemble was crushed to lose me, of course, quite crushed. But I am fully recovered.
I am returned.
And he's going to bring culture to Crease. Now, what I like about this part is we talked about how Joe he gets inspiration from, a lot of his books. And I have mentioned, I think, in one of our earlier episodes of this season of Red Country, that Deadwood is one of them. You guys haven't seen Deadwood?
No, I just thought it was in this season. This season of Red Country.
In the third, yeah. And Apple Podcast does it by seasons. They're goofy. In the third season of Deadwood, a whole fucking acting troupe makes their way across to the west or whatever. And so I'm like, I think to me, I'm thinking like this is where he probably got it from. Maybe not. Maybe there's another movie or a book where, acting troupe is like making its way to bring culture to, a fucking desolate, threadbare Western settlement.
I mean, it's a good point though, isn't it? The people do want something to do, they need entertainment. So if you're the only one around that's going to be doing it, you can make a lot of money. It does make sense.
Yeah. And I like how Shy's kind of a little pessimistic. She goes, "You're bringing culture out there," and he goes, "Even the meanest hearts hunger for a glimpse of the sublime."
So fucking stuck up.
Yeah, and I like how he's just smiling out into the horizon. He's looking and he goes, "My greatest performance is yet ahead of me. That's much I know." And folks, be patient. He does have a pretty cool performance.
He ain't lying, that's for sure.
He ain't lying. Then they move on to a wagon with like there's a dozen or so soldiers, right? And they barely can speak to each other, so Shai just like nods to them. They nod back, and they just move along. And then they meet Ashjid.
Ashjid, yes.
Ashjid. He's a Gurkish priest, and he's determined to be the first to spread the word of the prophet west to Greece. So it looks like the prophet is still hanging out, but actually the second, since a man called Oktari had given up after 3 months being there, and he had been skinned by ghosts on the return trip.
Jesus. You know what's interesting about the prophet's word?
What?
The prophet's word, despite it being, located in Kanta, and I'm sure a lot of people make a correlation to, like Islam. There is, it's actually very it's very Protestant-esque in terms of how it operates, and how freely it is. Like the word comes from the prophet, which is the prophet is obviously
you said prophet? I mean, I'm sorry. You said Protestant? Do you mean Mormon? Do you mean Mormon?
No. The people the people who follow the prophet's teaching. I'm saying that it's not very organized. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got you. It's just
not
all
organized
like
in the sense that you would normally. Yeah. Everybody kind of just does what they want within their religion. They follow the text, and most of these people are the people. They're not being ordained to go spread the word in Greece. And just what's more interesting to me about the religion as a whole is that like you got people like Joubert, who obviously believes in God, and he's Cantic. He was probably raised with similar teaching as this guy was, and despite that, he's got a completely different understanding of what God is and everything. And so I just find it interesting that like Joe doesn't put a ton of thought and time into the religion itself, but it's interesting that it's from the prophet, who obviously was Khalul, and Khalul does not exactly. I wonder if Khalul even tried to make it a religion on purpose, or that's the shape it took. Hence why there's no organization. It's just what people started to believe, because look what he can do. Oh, this is the word of God. That's what Khalul says, and you know what I mean. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah,
how it plays out. It's not exactly what you think.
I know what Harrison's next video for YouTube is going to be: an Adeptus historical deep dive into the religions of the first law.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's it. Bet on it, baby. It's happening. So yeah, but so far his only convert, SG's only convert, is in Joe's word, not mine, was a curious retard responsible for collecting drinking water.
Oh,
Christ.
Damn, Joe.
I did the first time I read that. I was like, damn, Joe, you're gonna use the full R word? Jesus.
You couldn't even use simpleton or something. You went full R word. But he had no information for them besides the revelation of the scripture. But he did ask God to smile on them on their search. So Shai thanked him for that. There's another wagon that the priest pointed out, told him to go to, and it's it's kept by a stern-looking man. His name is Savian. Savian? Is it Savian? Savian?
He says Savian.
Savian. All right. A man not to be trifled with. He had a long sword at his side, gray stubbled face. He has a low, like a hat on, because I think everyone has hats on, because obviously out in the West, let's picture a prairie, right? Or maybe not desert, but like a prairie, right? So a lot of exposure to the sun, So
yeah,
I like how Shai introduces herself and Lamb. He goes, "My name's Shai South, and this is Lamb," and he just nods. He's like, "All right." She goes, "I'm looking for my brother, 6 and 10, brother and sister, 6 years and 10." Didn't even nod to that. They were stolen by a man named Gregor Cantless. And then he goes, "Can't help you." And he has a trace of an imperial accent.
Did you say "count help you"?
Can't help you.
And then apparently he has like a long gravelly cough. And Shy remarks that
tuberculosis.
yeah, yeah, consumption, right? And I like how Shy goes, "That cough sounds bad," and he goes, "When's a cough good?"
Fair point.
So basically, that he has a
It seems
crossbow.
like Savian is the other fighting man that has been brought along.
Yeah, and he's hoping that he's a fighting man, and he's hoping he doesn't have to. And I guess what kind of fool hopes for a fight then? And then Savian goes, "Sad to say, there's always one or two about." And this is where Lamb comes in. He goes, "That's the sorry truth." And I like how Shy kind of is trying to get to know him. She goes, well, "What's your business in the far country?" And he goes, "It's my business." And he was like, all right. So
take it easy, pal.
But then a woman comes out of the wagon. Her name's Corlin. She tells him we might try her hand out at prospecting, and she's lean and strong, hair cut short, with blue eyes that look like they saw a long way. And Savian goes, "My niece." But then Shy's like, "Well, there's an odd dynamic between these two, but she can't get it.
You're like, it's kind of strange.
Yeah. And I like how Shy goes, "Prospecting, huh? You don't see a lot of women at that business." And Corlin turns like super uber feminist, and she's like, "Are you saying there's a limit on what a woman can do?"
Disgusting, by the way. We here at the Soccer World Podcast believe in equality. Of course she can.
Yeah, yes. And Shy goes,
Let me be clear. I think Shy's a bitch.
He goes, "All right." Shy's like, "All right, I'll be seeing you on the trail. I'll just catch you later." And she mutters to Lamb like, "Something's odd about those two. I didn't see any mining gear." And Lamb's like, well, who cares? Maybe they mean to buy an increase. Anyway, so they meet Reynold Buckhorn. He just nothing but hopes. Although he did it with a stutter. But he's the one that owns half the cattle here in the Fellowship. Him and his wife have a shitload of children, apparently.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, you can.
Not because I have a lot of children, but I grew up with 5 siblings. For those who don't, what the fuck is wrong with me? Jesus, boys.
It's all good.
Jesus Christ, I've got 12 siblings, so those poor children.
Poor children. And I like how the mom Shy goes like, she's a very nice lady, but she has such a tiny body. How the hell did she breed all those kids?
Damn. Again, sexist.
Shy. Setting women back about 100 years.
Okay, misogynist bitch.
And then, so then they go and talk to Hedges because Buckhorn and his wife, they don't have anything to give them in terms of like information about Gregor Cantless. Mm-hmm. Hedges doesn't have anything either. He's a shifty sort with a wore-out mule, not enough gear, and a charmless habit of talking to her from the neck down. All right.
And as we know, Hedges is sort of like Tully's counterpoint in the Heroes. It's like a similar sort of character, but not the main character, so he doesn't win.
So that's the thing.
Yes, he's the guy who was trying to rob the Northmen.
Right.
And he's like, and Yoke almost killed him.
Yeah, and I like how he didn't hear Gregor Cantless, but he did make sure to point out that his ruined leg, he got it from leading the charge at the Battle of Osrung. And Shy's like, I doubt that. And then I like how, because the Reynold Buckhorn's wife, her name is Luline. She had gave them like a pie. Shy gave it to Hedges. Looked like he could use it more than her. And with that, he actually finally looked her in the eye and said, "You're all right." And apparently, when she left him, he was looking down at that pie like it meant so much to him that he couldn't even bring himself to eat it. Which is like, oh, it's a nice little moment. It's gonna be fleeting, folks. Yeah. It's gonna be fleeting. And so she just went around talking to a bunch of people, and just nobody really. Nobody has any information there. And so finally, they get back to they get to their spot, whatever. And she goes, "There's lots of sympathy, but that's nothing." But Lamb says like, "Well, sympathy's something." And I guess And then Shy goes, well, yeah, they seem all right. I don't know how they'll fare if the ghosts come and things will get ugly, but they're all right. And Lamb goes, well, you'll never know how folks are gonna be if things get ugly. And I like how she looks over at him and she goes, yeah, you're damn right there. And he goes, gulp, and he looks away. And then that's pretty much the end of the chapter. And so I mean, yeah, folks, it's kind of like more of a we're gonna introduce ourselves to the Fellowship, and not much happens here kind of chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
Yeah, I like the fact that we get to see all these characters. We know a lot of them. Apart from like Buckhorn and Mahood, I think we've met a lot of these characters before. Obviously the Seljuks and Gentili as well. But you get a good, like Sweet said, a good cross section of society, and it's always good to have a few colourful characters. And knowing Joe, we're gonna start seeing who of them are gonna die soon.
Yeah, folks, don't get attached to any of them.
I reckon I'm just gonna give this one just a 4 because I do like it. It's quite funny,
I mean, I think I'm agree with you, George. I mean, 4 is appropriate. I mean, there's just not a lot going on. They introduce people, and like you said, it's fine. Like it's introduction. It has to happen. There's a lot of things that it has to be introduced here, but it's not extremely dynamic, but it's also not bad. So yeah, 4 is fine. Appropriate.
Yeah, honestly, man, before you guys said it, I was gonna give it a 4 anyway. So we got a trifecta for a 4. That's great. It's not we don't think bad chapters, right? It's just not a lot happens here. All it is like what he said. It's that central point of like, all right, now we're gonna be introduced to these people that are gonna be along for the journey, and don't get attached. And yeah, there are some funny parts to it. But yeah, 4 because the plot moves forward just by the fact of like now this Fellowship is a vehicle for them, like as to like how they're gonna get through their journey. So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
This is another really like basic one, but
how dare you?
I don't know if I should say this name actually. Got white.
Can you get closer to your mic?
Sorry, yeah. I said I don't know if I should say this name or not, but we've got a white Filipino.
What? Why not?
Their name. Don't cancel me. I just read the name.
There's nothing wrong with saying white Filipino. Jesus Christ.
I don't know.
Oh, this is it.
This is it. The Great Leveler, and then it's just a picture of a level.
I like the comments.
The comments are incredible. So we got hot packets there. Like the bubble of destiny spares no man nor countertop.
Mojo 963 says comes for us all.
Yeah, and it's a real straight edge as well, obviously.
Yeah, and NZ Nugan and ZN says plum as fuck, which that's a construction term, sir. I know, I like that one.
That is good. It is plum. But it's a nice simple one. It's got 90 upvotes. I don't
love it.
I'm surprised that nobody's done it before. The Great Level.
Great level.
It is surprising, actually.
Yeah, and it's surprising that nobody's made the connection.
Yeah, folks, and keep pushing out those memes on the First Law subreddit or the House of the Meme Maker subreddit. Just because we have been banished unjustly does not mean we still get to see them though. So
yeah, we still lurk on.
Yeah, we look in the shadows.
I think we get banned from even doing that.
But yeah, so thank you very much, white Filipino, for that.
Cracker Asian.
What was that, George? Can you say that again? Cracker Asian.
Cracker.
You fucking Cracker Asian.
Oh dear.
Anyways.
So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our second chapter read through. This one's the Rugged Outdoorsman. And if you know anything about Joe, and if you know anything about Temple, you know that this title is it's opposite day, folks. Temple is on his horsey, and obviously he's making his way out west, away from the company of the Gracious Hand, away from the Como Casca, and he ain't too happy. After his first day, he was worried they'd be looking for him, By the second day, he was like, I hope they are looking for me. And by the third day, he goes, these motherfuckers aren't looking for me, aren't they? Oh, man. Doesn't have a knife, doesn't have anything. And he's prone to outbursts to the point where, like, he's like, God damn it, or you're like, shit. And his horse, like, you can't, like, if you do that, a horse is going to get startled and, like, look for its surroundings. At this point, so many outbursts, the horse just kind of like stops, double checks, and is like, all right, it's just this fucking guy being an idiot. And I like how there's a bit of background here with Temple, right? Where it talks about he's 30 years old, right? And he's gone through many, many roles in his life. Let's go through them. Beggar, thief, unwilling trainee, priest, ineffective surgeon, disgusted butcher, sore-handed carpenter, briefly a loving husband, and even more briefly a doting father, followed closely by a wretched mourner and bitter drunk. So sad. I don't know. It was like Donald Trump right there. It was like sad, overconfident confidence.
It's very sad. If I was him, I would not have fucked that up.
What? Jesus Christ. Overconfident.
My wife would have stayed with me through death, as they have done before.
Overconfident confidence trickster, prisoner of the Inquisition, then informant for them, translator, accountant and lawyer, collaborator with a whole range of different wrong sides, accomplice to mass murder, of course, and most recently and disastrously, man of conscience. But Rugged Outdoorsman made no appearance on the list. I love that. I love that. And prisoner of the Inquisition, do you think we ever met him in the original trilogy?
No, definitely not. But we did. It is interesting to think that he worked with Glock at some point to some degree.
Yeah,
that's weird to think about.
Yeah, folks, how about this? Let's do a little contest. If you can troll through the original trilogy and find some nondescript man that Glock pays for info, maybe a little spy here and there, and if that's your best choice for Temple, we will send you a picture of me naked. So that's what we'll do. So anyway,
yay! Can I participate?
Yeah. All right. We'll send the picture of Harrison naked. Oh wait, did you want a picture of me? Is that what you wanted, Harrison?
Exactly right.
You get that for free, baby. Don't you worry about it.
Yay!
All right. So Temple doesn't even have the equipment to make a fire, but he wouldn't have known how to use it. He has nothing to cook with. He's just completely lost. He's starving. And he's angry. He's angry at himself, but not really, because he's actually blaming everybody. He's blaming Casca. He's blaming Lorson, Joubert, Shield, Safine. He's blaming everybody except the one person he should be getting all the blame, the one in the saddle. And I like how he kind of pleads with God. He's like, God, can you hear me? God does not answer, especially not to the likes of him. Go ahead, Harrison.
The way Temple's voice the way Pacey does his voice acting, he's always so wheedling. He's like, God, can you hear me? I love it. That's great.
Oh yeah, you're right. It does. He's always wheedling. It says it right here, wheedling, and he's just like, I haven't been the best man, or even a particularly good one.
And then he's just like, actually, because God's all knowing, I probably shouldn't try to embellish the truth here. It's like, okay, I'm a pretty bad one, okay?
Yeah. He's like, but far from the worst about. He's like, I am sure I could improve, though, if you could just see your way to giving me just one more chance. Just one more. And no reply.
Hey, then he died. I'm just kidding.
He goes, and to himself, he goes, if there was a God, he's a tight-mouthed bastard, and no doubt about, or whatever. But then he sees the faintest glimmer of a fire. Jubilation. And
hope.
And then caution. And he's like, wait a minute, who's fire? Ear-collecting barbarians, but a step above wild animals? But he smells cooking meat, and he's like, fuck it. He's going to go. So he reins up his horse, leaves it by a tree or something. And then he, creepy crawls over to the fire and sees that there's some skinned animal roasting above it. Sees a sword and a shield on a blanket, but doesn't see anybody. He goes, And then he's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it because I'm so hungry. and he is about ready to, I guess, like run and grab the food or something. But then behind him, he just hears a voice says, "Nice night for it." It's like, oh shit, and then. I like how Temple, in this moment, he just goes, "It's a bit windy," and then he's like,
It's
"Yeah."
so awkward.
He goes, "Yeah, I've seen worse." And Temple feels like a blade at the small of his back, and the voice says, "Let's see your weapons, slow as snails in winter," which is interesting. And I like how Temple goes,
It's the most northern shit ever.
Yeah. And Temple goes, "I am unarmed." And the guy is like a big pause. And Shivers, I'm not sure. God damn it. Hold on. Cut that out, George. And the voice goes,
You ruined the whole.
well, George will cut it out. The voice goes, "You're what?" He goes, "I had a knife, but I lost it." It's like, out here in the big empty without a blade. And then he pats him down. He goes, "You're not kidding." And he's like, "Unless you're hiding one up your ass." And he goes, "I'm not looking there." Temple's like relieved. He goes, "Are you a madman?" And he goes, "I am a lawyer." And the voice goes, "Can a man be both? I suppose." And then the voice pauses and goes, "Oh, Casca's lawyer." And he goes, "I was." And he goes, "Huh." And so then the man walks past Temple, and it Shivers, folks.
What do you know?
Yeah, and then he's asked him if he's hungry, and Temple's like, "Is that a question or an invitation?" But he says, "Look, I got more than I can eat. But get that horse, bring it up here before it shakes loose, and watch your step though, because there's a gorge that way, maybe 20 strides deep, with some angry water at the bottom." So look at Shivers being so nice here, right?
What a sweetheart.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah, helping the stranger. It's good.
Yeah, and Temple.
He definitely seems to be slightly less edgy, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. Yes, less edgy. Far cry from the man he became at the end of Best Served Cold and the Heroes.
Yes.
Well, so far from what we've seen. And Temple comes back and he digs into the food like the Cookie Monster, and then I'm just imagining him like, nom, 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 nom.
Cookie Monster. Oh, definitely. That's exactly what happened. You're right about that.
Yeah. And then as he's eating, he's like, "My great thanks. I was beginning to think I would die out here." And then Shiver says, "Who says you won't?" And then he kind of a piece of meat got caught in Temple's sword. And then "Are you alone?" He's like, "Yeah, I make poor company." And he asks him, "Are you worried about the ghost?" He goes, "Yeah, right." And he goes, once they killed me, then I'll worry." So he goes, "A man can spend a lot of time worrying, but what good does it get you?" And he goes, "Yeah. We're still looking for your 9-fingered man." Shiver says, "He killed my brother." Temple goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And Shivers goes, "You're sorrier than me. My brother was a shit, but family's family." And I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It is interesting that kind of Shivers sort of let go of his, the whole grudge with his brother and all that, or at least we kind of got that sentiment from him that he didn't really give a shit about his brother anyway. But the fact that he's then chasing Logan across the far country anyway, just because it's the principle of the thing.
It's the principle of the matter, and only because of a rumor, right? Just a rumor that there's a 9-fingered Northman out there in the West. And Temple says, "I wouldn't know, because relatives have rarely stayed long in Temple's life. A dead mother, dead wife, dead daughter. That sucks." And he said the closest thing that he has to family, and he was about to say Safine, is actually Nakomo Casca. Ooh. And Shivers is like, "In my experience, he ain't the safest man to have at your back." And Temple asks him, like, "Oh, what's your experience?" And he goes, "We were both hired to kill some men in Styria 10 years ago, so at this point, friendly too. Some others, a poisoner, a torturer." I like how Temple sounds quite the merry company. And folks, if you haven't read Best Served Cold, I'm retarded. Oh my God, George, cut off.
Tree. Last argument of the best served country.
Before they were served country.
Before they were served a little hatred. The trouble with the last argument of kings.
The wisdom of the blade itself.
Wisdom of before they're hanged. What have we done?
Oh my god. Oh my god. All right. Folks, if you haven't read Best Served Cold, get to it because it is a merry band of folks. God damn it. I like how he goes, I ain't the wag I seem. Things got a bit unpleasant as he scratches on, at the scar with his metal eye. He's like, ugh. And then Temple goes, yeah, more so with, like, things could get unpleasant with Casca, without him, but also more so with, and he says that he never cared much, but he used to care a little, but he got worse. And I like how Temple goes, not all men, when Shivers says that's what men do. And Shivers goes, you're one of those optimists I've heard about, which is so funny. That's a nice callback to Best Served Cold with him and Monza and everything. And then Temple goes, no, not me. I always take the easy way. And he goes, smart move. Hoping for a thing tends to bring on the opposite, which is interesting. And he says, I had my dreams of being a better man once upon a time. And Temple goes, what happened? Shivers just says, I woke up. And he went to sleep right after that. So
the funny thing about that, I like that line too. It's like hoping for a thing, usually get the opposite. That is, Shivers is like being, whether on purpose or on accident on Joe's part, he's being super meta. he's like, that's just how my stories go. Shivers actually understands now. He's been through he's had his arc, so he understands what happens. But it's cool to see how much more measured Shivers is. It's been several years since the Heroes, and he's much more chill, I guess. He's a little less edgy.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a break, and Temple, he wakes up, and he's happy. He's content. He's stretching. He's like, and he's looking up at the sky with a smile on his face. He's like, there's like renewed hope now that, now that he has some food, and Shivers is here. He's happy, and he turns to look, and Shivers is not on his blanket. Turns out, somebody else's. A man squatting there, stripped to his waist, pale body, twisted mass of sinew, and on his bottom half, he wore a filthy woman's dress, slit up the middle, then stitched with twine to make loose trousers. One side of his head was shaved, the orange hair on the other side scraped up into stiff spikes with some kind of fat. And in one hand, he had a hatchet, in the other, a knife. This is a ghost, folks. This is what we, I'm not going to say it, but this is, a ghost. These are the savages out in the wild.
These are the people, the remnants of the old empire that were left behind when the empire collapsed. And they have been
you think when
trying their best ever since.
Okay, so
potentially they had a certain amount of culture before the old empire, but I'm pretty sure they even talk about it later on about how we'll get some more insight into them.
So
but
you think
they?
I was gonna say, like, do you think that when the empire obviously collapsed, quote unquote, it obviously it's still around the empire, but when it consolidated,
right.
These are the people that were left behind when it kind of like got smaller.
Yes, no, for sure. There definitely a lot of them were, even if not all of them.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, so these people have a certain kind of fashion sense, and two more slipped through the trees because this guy is staring at Temple, and so these guys. I mean, let's talk about what one guy wore, like a helmet of like an open box of sticks. I don't even know how that's fucking what, and the other one has like self-inflicted scars on his cheeks. It's like, okay.
Of course he does.
And
a bit of a ritual scarification, which is interesting.
That's always fun to experience, like, to see in front of you. And then Temple hears somebody say Noyy, and Temple looks, and it's a fourth ghost who appeared out of nowhere. And this is between a man and a boy, so an adolescent, I guess. and yellow hair. A line of dried out brown paint under his eyes. Temple hoped it was paint.
Yeah, an intimidating group of savages, like you say, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice to make the ghosts gingers, and
ginger and blonde. Well, yeah, he ain't trying to make him Native American.
Actually, hang on. Yeah, there's baby. Again, this is you may have to cut this out, boys. But listen, in Disney movies, they tend to replace the gingers with black people. Joe's just trying to balance it out.
It's absolutely true. It's oh my god.
Oh my god. George, do with that what you will. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it is interesting. Anyway, so as I said, Temple is hoping that's brown paint, not shit. And
or blood.
Right. It could be like dried blood, right? I was thinking shit. I guess that's where my mind goes.
I mean, a guy covered in shit is pretty scary. Like, you're gonna be
right. So, and he has the necklace of like the bones of some small animal, and he's like hopping from one foot to the other, smiling, and he's beckoning. He's like beckoning Temple to come up. He's like, Noy. And Temple's slowly getting to his feet, smiling back. He's like, okay. And he goes, and I like how Temple goes, Noy. Right? He's just trying to see if he can match his language. Kid fucking.
Well, you know what though? That's cool. It's cool that he does it because Temple does know a ton of languages. Like,
he does.
Him,
he does.
You know, it's his instincts is to try to understand that, rather than be like, which all of other Joe's characters. This is so subtle. All of other Joe's characters would have been like, what, or the fuck, or what's going on?
Yeah, and I didn't.
Temple's like, no.
And I should have. You point that out, and I should have made it a point to note that Shivers, when he came upon Temple, it was talking in Northern, and Temple matched it. So he was talking in Northern with Shivers, and then obviously here he's gonna try to talk whatever language this kid is speaking, and this kid, as soon as Temple goes Noy, fucking hits him in the side of the head with a rock that's painted with blue rings. And, Temple's like, oh, he collapses. He's like, what the fuck? And his blood on his fingers because he touched the wound. And the kid is like, Noy! And he's telling him to get up again. And it's like, what the fuck is he doing? And this is like almost like, what? Is he trying to count coup? Which is like a Western trope, or not a Western trope. It's a thing that's in Western movies where counting coup is something that warriors of Native American tribes have to touch. Like, they have to touch their opponent before they kill him. So maybe this is something like that, like a ritual that the kid has to go through. But Temple does not know anything about this goddamn thing. And he's not. He says look in common, and the kid slaps him with his empty hand. And he goes, look in Styrian. That doesn't work. Kid slapped him again. He tried Cantic. He goes, I don't have anything. And the kid hits him with a rock. And Temple's like, what the fuck? He's groggy. And so he grabs at the nearest thing, which is the boy's leg. And he's clambering up, to his knees maybe. And then his face is throbbing. His mouth is full of blood. He feels numb. And the kid was saying something to the others, raising his arms as if asking for approval. So I do think it's something like that, right? Like counting coup. And the one with the spikes nodded gravely and was about to speak, and then his head flies off. Shivers came out of nowhere and cuts off the arm of the one that's next to the guy with the headless man. And now Shivers is fighting the men. And so Temple starts grabbing at the kid. And now they start like wrestling, right? And then, they start fighting each other and like, punching each other. They start fighting each other and punching and rolling. And now they're going down the ground because now there's a bit of a slope and they're rolling over each other. So it's pretty like, what you see in a movie, just like, punches and stuff.
Traveling around.
Yeah. And then out of nowhere, there's no earth at all, and they're falling. and he vaguely remembers Shivers saying something about a gorge.
That's a good setup, isn't it? It just set up literally like a few pages earlier, and then he's like, "Oh shit!" There you go.
Temple's such like a normal dude. It's so funny.
Yeah, Temple is probably the
like, oh,
closest
wait a
to
minute.
like a normal person in the modern day. Like he's just like does jobs. That's it. He doesn't fight.
Yeah, so he lets go of the kid, the
Noyy boy.
he lets go of the Noyy boy, and they're both falling, and he thinks it's like dreamlike. He's like, I'm just gonna wake up and be back with the company of the gracious hand, and then he hit the water, right, at feet first, luckily, and then he's under, surging, and it's like that, which gasping for air, sucked down again, and everything. Finally, he's able to he grabs at some driftwood, which is actually part of like a tree trunk. So he's okay, folks. He's okay. And he manages to heave his chest over, and he's on this tree trunk. It's still floating in the river, but he's okay. And then I like how he goes, "Is this your idea of a fucking joke?" And then a wave slaps him in the face, and he's like, "All right, no more jokes." And then he let it all slide by, and he trusted to God since there was no one else. He hoped for heaven, but he fully expected the alternative. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
Harrison?
This chapter is, so I'll start mentioning it more now. I tried to judge Red Country based off its own merits, and I'll be honest, sometimes it's hard because the way that Red Country works is like, look at all these callbacks, and I love it. It's awesome. But also, like, sometimes, like, do I judge it based off of the chapter itself or based on how it fits into the rest of the story? Because this book does it so much. And not very subtly either, which is okay. I don't have an issue with it. But I think I'm going to give it a 6, because I think it is a good middle ground, because, yeah, it's great to see Shivers. It's really cool. But, like, really, we're just like, hey, isn't that funny? Hey, isn't that ironic? Hey, look how he's changed. And Temple is like, oh God, I'm going to die. So I think that's what I'm going to name that one.
Okay, that's good. George?
Yeah, not a lot happens in this chapter. Obviously, this chapter has to happen in order for the plot to move on. But like you say, I like that we see Shivers and we get basically a retelling of his story through Temple's eyes, and we get a bit of background on Temple as well. So it's not so bad, but I reckon I'm only going to give it a 3.
Oh wow, 3. Okay, I'm gonna give it a 5. Short chapter. The reason it got less, I'm not giving it a 4 or a 3 is because there was some action. There's some violence, which is always cool, and we know like.
You like that violence, don't you, huh?
Yeah, you know it. And nothing happens necessarily for the plot, except for the fact that now we know that Shivers is we knew that Shivers was obviously in the far country looking for Logan, and he's still actively doing so we know that. And we know, and then Temple now obviously he's on a river floating. We know he's going to end up somewhere. So we know that. If that's all you get, you do know that. So that's where the plot moves just a bit. But yeah, I'm gonna give it 5 fingers. Yep. So
okay.
Now we'll move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who are we shining a spotlight on?
We're gonna be covering the ghosts, and specifically the
Noyy boy.
Noyy boy. It's interesting that you brought that up, Jeff, about the counting coup, and sort of like an initiation or like a coming of age ritual, isn't it? Obviously, the ghosts are based very heavily on the Native Americans, and it's interesting that they have all of this like motley stuff that's just been like collected off the people they've obviously like intercepted. They've just like repurposed it. And that's sort of like their whole aesthetic. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, because this is why I'm fairly sure later on in the book they talk about it, about how like after the Empire left, they were left with nothing, and they didn't have the means. It's a collapse of civilization. They didn't have the means to know how to grow crops or cultivate the land, and so they just resorted to foraging, and then whenever that didn't work out so well, they started pillaging, and so it's kind of it's more of a tragic thing that happens with them. But it makes sense that they have all these things from other people because that's what they've lived on. That's what their society's been built around for the past several hundred years. So as sad as that is.
I just had a thought. Are we sure that the old empire was present in this area? Because we don't have any remnants of like any settlements of any like civilization, right?
Yeah, we do.
Well,
they're everywhere.
Crease?
Creases is the furthest point away.
Really, Crease is? I thought
this entire area.
Like an old amphitheater. Like
the
Papa Ring has his base in like an old amphitheater.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know why when I thought of Crease, I thought of like, settlements, like, shacks, wooden stuff, like, wooden buildings, but okay.
Yeah, I think a majority of it is that, but yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, there's like a bridge or something, right? In Red Country?
Yeah, we see the Maker's Bridge as well.
Yeah.
Yes, one of them. One of the three, I think. No, it's not one of the three. It's just a big bridge that's built. It's not the Maker's Bridge.
Oh, is it not the Maker's Bridge? It's just a regular bridge.
No, because remember there were three of them, and the last one was over Darmium, and Darmium's one got destroyed during the trilogy.
No. It was only three bridges that they needed to get that way. But I think that is the Maker's Bridge that we see. The way it's described, it's steel.
No, because we'll see. We'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll discuss when we get there.
We'll see. Anyway, let's get back to Noyy Boy. All right, talk about it, George. You were talking about County Coup. Go ahead.
Oh, but that's it. I've already covered it.
Let's get back to Noyy Boy. Cut that out, George. Let's get back to Noyy Boy and talk about how he was. I don't know, man. It seemed to me like he's a teacher's pet. Kind of like looking to those adults for approval. Like, ill. You're a kid. You're supposed to be like cool. Ugh.
I think it's very telling that he's a boy. And that's not...
Yeah.
That's not cool.
No, it shouldn't be. But then, in those kinds of societies where it's important.
Yeah, you got to be a warrior at like a teenager. Right. You're going to be...
but even inside the North, they're like, oh, yeah, this isn't good. We're recruiting boys at this point. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm still of the opinion that, like, it's not what they... it's not optimal.
No, well, but you have to understand different societies, right? And we're engaging in we shouldn't engage in presentism, right? Like applying our moral or societal standards. Like maybe just with the ghost, they're like, if you're 14 years old, you got to beat somebody over the head with a rock, and that's just to them they're okay with.
Just the way it is.
That's the way it is.
I understand that that argument, but it still doesn't mean that it's right.
There is no such thing as right or wrong out there in the West.
A society only sends their children off to war if they absolutely have to. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, I hear you.
Period. So it's not a good sign for their society if they're having to send their boys off to war. That's all I'm saying.
No, I hear you. And technically, they weren't off to war. They were scouting, and they were like, okay, you got to have your first kill. That's not war. That's murder. Worse, I think.
Yeah. Great. So much better.
So we get a glimpse of the ghost in the sense that, they kind of, like what Harrison was saying in terms of the fall of the empire and everything. Like, they don't really, like, they have some interesting traditions, I guess, customs, like shaved orange hat, like shaved one side, spikes the other, wearing, like, clothing obviously that they clearly got from ravaging like a fellowship or something, right? Like just attacking travelers, I assume.
Yeah. That's exactly it. They cobble together whatever they can.
Yeah. They're like human Shanka.
Jesus.
Jeffrey?
That's too far. Yeah, we've gone too far.
What? The shank could cobble things together in the first one.
Subhuman.
No, I'm saying, but the human forms, like they cobble things together. They obviously have some weird customs. They have poop on their faces.
Okay,
Noy.
You're saying they're equivalent.
Yeah.
Noy?
Noy.
That could mean drop your weapon.
Noy. I like how he's hopping from one foot to the other. He's like, Noy. Noy. It's like, well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means oh so much.
Join us next week as we cover driftwood and reasons.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media and check out the website or send us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
Noy?
Noy.
Noy?
Noy.
Noy?
Noy?
Noy.